Welcome to Beyond the Presser. I'm your host, Kevin Lindsay, and we are here for episode 001 of the podcast. I'm super excited to get this thing started, and I'm just going to be full transparency. If you're listening to this on just the podcast and you are just hearing the audio version, I decided probably about an hour beforehand, before I started recording. This is on a Saturday, that I was going to add video to it, and I just kind of threw something together a little bit. I'm using my webcam. I'm also not at the studio at the leader call. I'm at my house. I'm literally at my house. That's why you're seeing my bedroom. I made my bed especially for you guys and girls listening to the podcast or watching watching the video, I should say. But I don't know. I guess I got a little inspiration. Another podcast that I follow, they were like, if I were starting a podcast in 2026, I would do video, even if it's just throwing something together in your bedroom. And I was like, well, you know what? I'll take that advice. I will take that advice. So, week one, episode one, whatever you want to call it, you might see Jinxie, my cat, hop up on the bed. Kimber might end up coming in here. You never know. It could just go into complete madness. But I do want to encourage you, of course, right off the bat, if you want to follow me on Facebook, Twitter, X, whatever we're calling it now, Instagram, all that, you can find it by searching klindseyphotos. You can also see, by the time this comes out, I probably would have announced it, I'm doing a Substack now, where I'll have some additional content that's outside of my full-time work at the leader call. You can find that. I'll have some details in the podcast info and the description at the bottom, and I'll also have it in the YouTube video that you can find me on Substack. And I hope that you subscribe to Substack. I'm going to send out probably a weekly email. It won't be every time I post. It'll be something probably on Mondays, probably with the podcast, honestly. And you can go to Substack. You can see the podcast. You can see other things that I'm doing there as far as little side projects. But yeah, make sure you subscribe to that. You just literally type in your email and then you'll receive stuff once a week. If you're like me, I really don't stay on Facebook that much. So you can subscribe to the Substack and see all of my stuff all in one place. Everything from YouTube to the podcast to articles from both Leader Call and when I'm doing side projects, all in one place. So I wanted to get that out of the way. Just to kind of give you a description of what this podcast is going to be. Like I said, I just added video. Just kind of on the whim decided to do that. Just so you understand what this is not in competition with the Leader Call Sports Show. That is my full-time work. If you want to hear more in-depth stuff about our Jones County teams, I would encourage you to go like the Laurel Leader Call Sports Show. We're on YouTube there, and you can find us on Facebook. We're live at 3 p.m. on Wednesdays. We're trying to keep it an hour-long show. So if you want to hear more talk about the Jamborees, which I'm going to talk a little bit about, I've got my second screen over here. I've got my notes right there. If you're watching on video, you'll see me look over. I've got my notes over here that I'm looking at. Anyway, so let's kind of dive into it. It was Jamboree week for the MHSAA. I'm looking at Brandon Shields. He was kind of going through some of the scores, but specifically where I was at, I went to two of the games last night at the Jones College Jamboree. A cool event hosted by Jones College. All four of our schools from the Free State were there. We had the 3 county schools, and then we had the city school of Laurel. So I just kind of want to talk about it and kind of touch on it because I'm actually going to be talking about something that I did as a side project, which is our top 10 teams from 1A to 7A. So I don't want to keep you here long. I want to keep this podcast to 20 or 25 minutes long each week. So let's kind of talk about into the Jamboree games and what I saw. And again, if you're watching on video, I'm looking at my notes over here. So it was a rough evening for the Jones County teams in the Free State. No team won. We had one team tie, and that was South Jones. To start the day off, we had Seminary and West Jones. I was not at West Jones and Seminary or McGee and South Jones. Josh Nichols, the guru, was there. He told me, we talked a little bit about it. Seminary and West Jones, Wes Jones was in their practice gear pretty much, and quarterback Tootie Lindsey, he couldn't be hit. He had a red jersey on, and Seminary won that one 21-7. I'm gonna just be real here. I had people coming back on the TikTok page and commenting on Facebook. Oh man, you were wrong. Oh, you guys were wrong. Wes Jones didn't win. I'm here to tell you, and we'll talk a little bit more about it in the top 10 stuff. I'm 100% on board that Seminary is a legit team. I think they are a sleeper team to go to the state championship this year. So I'm not surprised that Seminary come out on top. I'm a little surprised that Wes Jones was in their practice gear and Tootie couldn't be hurt. Maybe there's something we just don't know going on there. I'm not sure. I didn't get a chance to talk to Coach Pearson, but I was a little bit disappointed to hear that. But then you see Seminary come out on top, 21-7. Even if Tootie couldn't get touched, he didn't play defense over there. He played quarterback. So Seminary to be able to score 3 touchdowns in 2 quarters. This is what I kind of worried about with Wes Jones, was how they would look defensively. But again, it's a Jamboree game. They were in their practice gear. I think that it's some things you have to take with a grain of salt. Don't hit the panic button. Wes Jones, the Mustangs, don't do that. I just think the Seminary is as advertised. The second game, and the one I think there were some delays because we did have some weather. Ellisville had lightning delays. Was McGee and South Jones. They tied 3-3. Again, I talked to Guru a little bit about this one. He was actually on his way to get some supper and get something to eat, so we didn't spend too much time talking about this one. So if you want to hear his analysis, check out the show Wednesday. But he was just honest. He said South Jones looked kind of so-so. McGee looked the part again. I think, again, they're another sleeper team like I talked about with Seminary. I was told by a coach anonymously last night that they could see this McGee team playing for South State. They could see them making a run. So, you see this with South Jones. I think it's kind of a situation, too. Anquan Jackson is arguably their best player on the team. I know that there's Braden Armstrong and Ezra Elsie. Those 2 guys are great on defense. Anquan's going to be the guy that makes the offense go. And, I think that you're probably not going to see much from South Jones there. I think that's the way it is for most Jamborees. You're not going to see too much outside the norm for these teams. And I think South Jones is specific to them because they had Northeast Jones the next game up, and Northeast Jones was going to be there watching. And guess what? They will play this coming week, Thursday night. So nobody wanted to show their hand. I think it was the same for Wes Jones or anybody else. You don't want to show your hand too much. Still, McGee holding South Jones to 3. I think that's impressive. And then we move on to the 2 games that I was at. Summerall and Northeast Jones. I got there a little bit late because we had, like I said, we had a ton of weather. And coming from my house, it was pouring rain. So I was just a couple of minutes late. Still, I saw what I needed to see. Summerall looks good. I saw them last year when they played South Jones in that 6-0 game, that they come out on the bad end of that one. I love Coach Granger over there at Summerall. I think it's a great fit. And they look good. They look crisp. Northeast Jones looked like a team that basically had moved from the wing tee to the shotgun. They looked like a team that had lost a lot. The one thing that stood out to me was Elijah Collins. That kid is a playmaker. If he has time and people around him, and I think that he will with Caleb Magruder and those guys all around him, I think that Northeast Jones will probably look better as the season goes on, as long as they don't have any injuries. I know there's 2 Caleb Magruders, the one at South Jones, but there's one at Northeast Jones too. And also Dice, I think that's his name, running back. They'll be okay. It may not say it. I've said this and I'll keep saying it. It might not feel like it in the win-loss record, but I think that you'll see Northeast get a little bit better as the season goes on. So Summerall won that one 16-0. The final one, this one was the one that, if I wish it was a regular season game. I do, because there was a lot of hype around this Jamboree game to close out the night at Jones College, and to me it didn't disappoint. You had Heidelberg and Laurel. Heidelberg did exactly what I thought they would do. I said it in Wednesday's show on the Leader Call show, that they would come out with a chip on their shoulder and they would want to show that they could compete with anybody in the state, and they do. They ran all around Laurel and defeated them 22-6. They are loaded across the board. Their running back, Porter, oh my goodness, that kid. He gets bigger every time I see him in the best way possible. He looks so good. Chase Craft is Chase Craft. Jacaden Moore, all of those kids, they are who they are, and they just did what they had to do and won that game 22-6. What I saw from Laurel's side was, I saw there was a little bit of panic, and I don't want to just go at a kid or anything. Bryson Bivens, though, I think he needs a little bit more time to be able to make better decisions. He had several interceptions in those 2 quarters. One, he threw into double coverage. He was just taking a shot. Another one, I'm not sure if it was on Bivens or the receiver. I feel like the receiver might have changed. Maybe he didn't run his route correctly. Maybe that's what it was. But still, from the very first snap goes over Bivens' head. He couldn't help that, obviously. It ends up that Heidelberg ends up getting a safety off of that. And then Bivens throws a few interceptions. Again, credit to Heidelberg. I also don't want to trash Laurel here. Definitely don't want to do that. I think this is one of those things where they're learning a bit of a new offense too, with Coach Reynolds at offensive coordinator. I just hope that Bivens has enough time to be able to make better decisions, because I know what his potential is. I am really high on Bryson Bivens, and I think that he's just going to get better and better. But he's got to have time to be able to make better decisions, and he has to make those decisions. So, anyway, that's my 10-minute recap, I guess you could say, of the games that I was at the JC Jamboree. And let's dive into this top 10, because these top 10s, man, they had some people in their feelings, I felt like, at some point. So I'm going to bring these up. The people who are watching the video, they're getting to see me move this stuff around live. We're going to start by talking about 1A. And 1A, I had Calhoun City at 1, Simmons at 2, Taylorsville 3, Nanawai 4, Biggersville 5, LaFleur County at 6, Ethel at 7, Okolona at 8, Lumberton at 9, and 10 at Stringer. I'm going to be honest, I'm not going to go through all 1 through 10. 1 second. The live video gets to see me cough, but I'm muted for the podcast. I'm not going to go through all 10 of these teams. I'm just going to highlight a couple of teams that I think that are going to stand out. One, I heard from someone last night that they were a little concerned about Taylorsville, especially on offense. I think that they'll be fine. I think that people can read sometimes too much into Jamborees, but I think they'll be fine. With that said, I think Calhoun City and Simmons are the 2 teams. I think both of those teams out of the North, I say Simmons is out of the North, I think both of those 2 teams are the ones to beat. I think that they are the ones that you'll expect to be around in late November. Taylorsville should be there. Stringer at 10. I think that if they can beat Taylorsville in the regular season, then they could be a team to look out. They lost some pieces, but talking to Coach Brady, he said that he thinks that they can get it together. And while they may not have that one piece, they have people who can make up for that one piece that they lost last year. So, Stringer at 10. I think Lumberton is a team that can be really, really sneaky there. I think that they are in a position where they could probably make some noise in that. I'm so sorry. I'm having enough trouble with my voice. My goodness. Anyway, so yeah, Calhoun City and Simmons are my top two. I think that things could change, but this is kind of like a preseason poll, so it is what it is. But I think those are my top two teams. Moving on to 2A, it's kind of the same way. I have Heidelberg at 1, East Webster at 2, Mize at 3, Charleston at 4, Baldwin at 5, Kemper County at 6, Bay Springs at 7, 8, Eupora, 9, Wesson, and 10, Clarkdale. Now, I think, and this is controversial, I know, it sounds like I'm being biased, it sounds like I'm being salty. I think Heidelberg last year had one of their worst games that they could have at the worst possible time, and that was the state title game against East Webster. Now, credit East Webster, the wide receiver, I can't remember his name, he absolutely mossed that Heidelberg defense. I will say that 100%. I think East Webster's a great team, but I just feel like that Heidelberg, especially this year, especially coming in this year, I think Heidelberg is the team to beat. With that said, that number 3 team, Mize, that I have in my top 10, I think if Heidelberg was to have the game that they had at the state championship and Mize has their best out, they could give them fits. And I know that there's a lot of people from Heidelberg that are going to laugh that off, but credit to what Mize is doing as an athletic program all around. I think they are on the up and up as a school. And I don't know. I have Mize at the 3. I feel like if Heidelberg was in a different classification, we would be looking at East Webster and Mize for the state championship. I'm just going to be completely honest with you. With that said, I know that some people are going to say, well, you're just forgetting about Bay Springs. I have them at 7. And I think that Mize could put them in that 3 seed because they're all in the same region. Heidelberg, Mize, and Bay Springs. And I think that you could have a situation where Bay Springs is the 3 seed and they aren't going in to host a playoff game. Now, do I think they do make the playoffs? Yeah. I think that Coach Young is a great coach. He has enough talent there to get them in the playoffs with probably little problems. But I just kind of feel like that Mize may be just a touch off. Heidelberg is probably, and I don't want to say this is an insult, but Heidelberg is probably the most talented team. But Mize just has a way, man. I watched them in the South State title game. I like what their coach is doing. I like the athletes they have. They have that cornbread-fed athlete mentality. And I just like it, man. With that said, the same goes up north, though. I see East Webster as a team that they're going to make it back, and we'll have Heidelberg and East Webster 2.0. That's what I would say right off the bat. Then we move to 3A. Noxubee County at 1, Winona 2, Seminary 3, Raleigh 4, Choctaw County 5, PCS 6, West Marion 7, Jefferson Davis County 8, Union 9, and McGee in 10. And, hey, I'm just going to say it. I had some people that were saying that I was disrespecting Raleigh. I get you. I understand exactly what you're saying. Raleigh is Raleigh. Coach Higg is Coach Higg. I'm just saying, whenever I talked to Coach Higg, he was worried about his offensive line and his quarterback, and he had a right to be so because he's replacing, I think it was, he said, 3 or 4 of his offensive linemen, and he's replacing his quarterback. If I'm not mistaken, he was replacing all that. Now, last night I talked to someone who was at the Smith County Jamboree, said Raleigh looked good. They took down Jim Hill, no problem. Defensively, they looked great, and Raleigh is Raleigh. Hey, I ain't down the Lions, but I just can't get over Noxubee County and what they bring back and what they have. And then I've heard, again, so much about Winona. And then Seminary, who we just talked about earlier, They knocked off West Jones. And I know it's a jamboree, but it's Coach Mitch Evans at Seminary. That is one of the toughest regions in the state. When you have a Seminary and a Raleigh, and I think McGee is in there, you have all of those teams in there just fighting for that one seed. I think Raleigh is going to be good, but I don't know. In my heart of hearts, I could not justify them after talking. And maybe it's me, maybe it's Coach Higg just giving me the coach speak and whatnot. But I couldn't put them. I couldn't put them at 2, and I know that's crazy because they were a state championship team last year. Having these coughing episodes. I'm so sorry. I'm recovering from being sick. I think another team that could surprise people is PCS. And then JDC, I'm a little down on. I know they're JDC, but I'm a little down on them. And I don't know. It's just tough. It's tough being in that region. And then you have McGee at 10, who I think is a sleeper team. So we're at 22 minutes almost. So I got to get moving. I don't want this to be a 40-minute episode. In 4A, Columbia, Louisville, Poplarville, Kosciuszko, Pass Christian, Macomb, Clarksdale, Corinth, New Albany, and Senatobia. 4A, I'm going to be completely honest with you. 4A is the one that I am least familiar with in this state. I just know Louisville is Louisville, Columbia is Columbia. I think those two teams are dead set on a rematch or a match coming up in December. Don't sleep on Macomb. They have some really good athletes there, and they can make a run. That's all I'm going to say about 4A. If you want to comment, if you want to talk about what 4A has, hey, feel free. No disrespect to 4A football. It's the ones that we cover the least. We have no 4A teams around here anymore, especially now that Northeast Jones has moved up to 5A, and that's what we're fixing to talk about is 5A football. I have Brookhaven at 1, West Point at 2, Lanier at 3, Holmes County at 4, Laurel at 5, Pontotoc at 6, Cleveland Central at 7, Stone at 8, New Hope at 9, Wayne County at 10. South Jones fans, stand up. I know you feel disrespected that I didn't put you in the top 10. I know I put bulletin board material out there for you if you're sitting here listening or watching on YouTube or listening on your favorite podcast host app. I know you feel disrespected, but here's the thing. You got waxed. You've been waxed the last couple of years by a Wayne County team that I have poked fun at, lighthearted fun at. You got waxed and you got put out of the playoffs. That's why you didn't get put in my top 10. Not only that, but you got to replace the quarterback. So, when we talk about someone who's not in my top 10, can you get in my top 10? Absolutely. This is preseason top 10. With that said, I have Brookhaven at 1. I don't see anything changing there with that team. They're a great football team. West Point is West Point. They come out of their mama's womb with a playbook in their hand that is the wing tee, basically, and they're learning that from the time they're 3 months old. They've learned the playbook. Number 5 at Laurel, I think this is a team, every year we talk about it, we see them get beat up. They're 0-5, 0-6, because they play this gauntlet of a schedule, and it's just crazy, and everybody's down on them, and Laurel fans are like, oh gosh, what are we going to do? And what happens? They make a run, just like they did last year. They were a game away from a state championship, losing to eventual champion Brookhaven. It is what it is. Laurel is a good team that plays a gauntlet of a schedule. They're probably, unless they just get blanked in every game, they're probably going to stay in my 5A top 10 until we get to 5A ball. And if they are still terrible, then they'll move out. But them playing Hattiesburg, Oak Grove, and all these teams that are 6A and 7A powerhouses, and them losing, they're still a good team. You have to look beyond what you see just on the scoreboard, like beyond the pressure, right? You have to look in a little bit more. So Right there, though, I've got Stone. I think that they're going to be another solid team, a team that Laurel beat by a field goal last year in the playoffs to get to South State. Wayne County got a lot of height with Tracy Lampley there as new head coach. I think they're going to be a sneaky team in 5A football. A lot of talent there. Let's move on to 6A. 6A, we have Warren Central, South Panola, Hattiesburg, West Jones, Picayune, Ridgeland, Grenada, Neshoba Central, Canton, and Terry. I'm just going to touch on a couple of teams here. Hattiesburg is going to be good yet again. Warren Central is going to be good. And then West Jones at 4. Some people are saying I've got them too high. Other people are saying I've got them too low. That's why I put them at 4. I think they're a good team. I think the offense is going to go. Chandler Watson, Tootie Lindsay, Kyron Senegal. They've got some guys on that are dogs. Tootie Lindsay is not going to have a shortage of people to throw to. Chandler was our co-player of the year for the Laurel Leader Call, along with Tootie. And then Kyron Senegal, he is a dog. I'm telling you, this kid, he was at Stringer, then was at Wayne Academy. He's settled in now at West Jones. I think he's actually kin to Tootie. I'm telling you, he's a dog, and Chandler's going to be opposite of him. This offense is going to go. What I'm concerned about is defense, and what do they have there? What do they have on defense? Yeah, that's pretty much all I got to say for 6A. And by the way, there's a lot of people, too, that are really, really hyped on Terry. I put them at 10. I think they had a weak schedule last year. But I still want to show them some respect. Put them in at 10. So let's move up to 7A. I have Tupelo, Gulfport, Oak Grove, Brandon, Oxford, Starkville, Petal, Madison Central, D'Iberville, and Germantown rounding out my top 10. I think that Tupelo is the team to beat in 7A. But the disrespect for people with Gulfport, man, I've seen Gulfport as low as like 6 or 7 on some people's list. They just won a state championship. And I know that their running back is in Starkville now. I get that. But the disrespect that I've seen regarding Gulfport, to me, is crazy. Maybe they just lost way more than what I thought or what I saw. Though right there in 3 is Oak Grove. They're in another region that's just absolutely tough. Yeah, so it is what it is. I've got them at 3. Brandon, Oxford, Starkville. This is 7A is really, really good, especially with the top, probably, I'd say top 7 or 8 teams. I think those 8 teams, any one of those, Tupelo, Gulfport, Oak Grove, Brandon, Oxford, Starkville, Petal, or Madison Central, those 8 teams should all be in the playoffs and should or could be state championship teams. So that's kind of where I'm at with 7A. I didn't do it overall 1A through 7A. I think that poll's stupid. I just do. I'm sorry, because you're either going to disrespect a team like Heidelberg in 2A, or you're going to undersell a team in 7A like, say, Oak Grove. I think you're going to do that if you do an overall 1 through 7A top 10. So I think it's stupid. I'm not going to do overall. I'll keep it at classification. So after next week's Week 1 games, we'll see where they're at. Finally, I said I didn't want to make it 40 minutes, and here I am closing in on 30. This will probably be the longest podcast of the year. I'm going to be completely honest with you, because again, like I said, I want to keep these at 20 to 30 minutes. I just want to kind of talk about something that I was approached with, and this will probably be its own video segment, to be completely honest with you, sometime this week, because I'll probably end up cutting some of these segments. But this is one I got asked by a couple of people, and then I got asked by a coach last night. And I believe it was MRA that, I'm going to look this up on Facebook just to make sure. I know Blake Levine. Sorry, Blake. You're going to have to tell me how to pronounce your last name. I'm sorry, buddy. But I saw Blake. He posted about this. About, I believe it was MRA, that are going to be charging freelance media people to come to their games. And I went through and looked, and I found some schools in Alabama that are doing it. I found some schools in Georgia that are doing the same thing. Yeah, this is it. This is 3 days ago. MRA Athletics Media Policy, and I'll just kind of read this. It says, attention freelance photographers and videographers. Sideline credentials are required for access to all restricted fields and court areas. Passes must be approved by AD. School issued photo video credential pricing is $300 for a single sport pass and $500 for an all sport pass. And again, I got asked what my opinion was on it. So I went and looked and found other schools that are starting to do this. And I want to approach this with a bit of grace, okay? Because, one, I'm in a newspaper business that the newspaper business it has had to be resuscitated, I feel like. We're in the way of adapting from just straight print media to trying to do more digital things and all that, okay? And so how I say this is not to be bashing anyone. It's not anything like that. But I got asked about it last night from a coach, I should say, not a head coach, but a coach, when he pointed out that there was a couple of kids, and I say kids, teenager age kids with cameras in their hands, and he's like, hey, what's your opinion on this? Like, with MRA and other places charging. And I agree. I'm going to be honest with you. I agree with this process. Do I have a certain amount that I would charge? No. But I do think that this has been an ongoing problem. I wanted to talk about it on the show, the Leader Call Sports Show last year, but it just never felt right. And I think this is the way to do it. And let me start by telling you my story. Whenever I started doing this in late 2011 or 2012, I went through starting as a freelancer through a buddy of mine, James Pugh, and I got a camera from James, and we went to my first thing I ever covered was a Stringer softball game. And we just went out. It was on a Saturday, and he kind of showed me what to do. And from then on, I wanted to do this. I wanted to do this photojournalist thing, right? So me and some buddies created a website, and we decided how we would map out everything. And the first thing that we did was we went to the schools, and we went to the coaches, and we showed them this website that was terrible at the time. But it became a lot better. Credit to John. It became a lot better of a website. But we told them what we wanted to do. And we went to these people and said, look, we're going to have badges and all of that. And in the meantime, while that website was getting built and going through and we were talking, I decided that I was going to eventually get in this field. And then I had a friend of mine who was the editor at a paper in Collins, in a newspaper in Collins. And I said, hey, I will come take pictures at Collins football games if I can get a press credential from the Mississippi Press Association. And they were happy to do that. And he showed me how you were supposed to be respectful and what to do and what not to do. And I met coaches there. It's actually where I met Coach Ernest. And I met people there. And I just sat back and learned. Let me tell you, my first year, I got too close to the sidelines, and I got destroyed by a football player. Like, made me cut a flip because I had gotten too close over the suggested line, and I just wasn't as aware as I needed to be. And it hurt. I thought it broke my leg. But with that said, I learned, though, through talking to coaches, talking to staff, talking to administration, telling them who I was. And now it's gotten to the point where it's not to brag or anything, but I feel like that people know who I am whenever I come to these events. And if they don't, I'm quick to tell them who I'm with, who I'm working with. The thing that I've seen over the past couple of years is you have kids, teenagers, and adults who are picking up a camera, who are going on YouTube. Nothing wrong with this. Nothing wrong with this. They're going on YouTube, they're going on TikTok, they're going on Instagram, and they're learning some like cool edits, and they're learning what to do and what to shoot, and they're artsy and all of these things, and great work. But the problem is they're shooting for nobody but for TikTok and for Instagram. And they aren't working for press. They're not working for a business. And they're working, you could say, well, they're working for themselves, and maybe they are, and maybe they've got a player who's like, hey, who's a high school kid, by the way, who's like, hey, come take pictures of me. You take fire pictures, you have great video work. Come do this to me. Or a parent sees their work and is like, hey, come take pictures of my kid. But they haven't talked to coaches. They haven't talked to administration. They haven't got a press pass. They just show up. In 1 second, excuse me. They just show up. And that's not the way you should do it. I'm sorry. It's not. That is not the way you should do it. You shouldn't just show up. You should let people know who you are, why you're there, why you're doing what you're doing. Last night, and again, I'm not trying to be the old man who yells at clouds or a Karen. Last night, I counted in the span of about 5 minutes, 10 teenagers with camera gear, all in their hands, and and maybe a couple of them worked for Jones College. I'm not sure. They didn't look like it. But I saw 10 kids, 10 teenagers, all with camera gear in their hands. And I couldn't tell you who they were, if they were working for anybody, or what they were doing. And there was 3 kids, and again, I just saw it. It was during the Heidelberg Laurel game. We were in the red zone, and they were at the pylon, and they were standing right by the pylon. And they were about 3 feet from getting run into by referees who were backing up. And it was 3 young guys. And I told them, hey guys, watch out, back up, because if a referee runs into you, you can be kicked out. And you're really, no other way to say it, you're really going to piss them off because you're in their way. There's a clear line that you're supposed to be behind. And they were like, oh, okay. And I wasn't mad or anything. I was just like, hey, watch out. Watch what you're doing. It takes people to say stuff like that. Because if not, you're going to do like me and run up there and get almost have a broken leg because you do something stupid because you're not where you need to be. There has to be some sort of keeping the sidelines as clean as you can. There's no reason that at a Northeast Jones or South Jones or whatever game that there's 15 kids out there with cameras. There's just no reason for it. And I'm not trying to gatekeep them. I'm not trying to gatekeep or anything like that. But there's just no reason, especially when no one knows who they are. And another thing, I had someone who disagreed with me. Another thing that I told them, those kids could easily be used in a freelance role with us at the Leader Call, with the Hattiesburg American, with the Clarion Ledger, for any newspaper, Richton's newspaper, Meridian's newspaper. They would pay you something. They would probably get you a media pass, a legit Mississippi Press Association media pass for you to be there. But none of these kids apparently want to do it. And none of these people apparently want to do it. And I say kids, teenagers, or adults, because there are some adults that are doing the same thing. They make a Facebook page, they go to Best Buy, they get a Canon mirrorless camera that's $2,000 and a lens, and they go out there and they just think that they can make a fire TikTok at it, and people love it, and it's cool. It's cool, but it's like I told a teenager who's done some work for us. You could translate this into a college, going to college at Jones College or Pearl River or East Central, and show them what you got and say, hey, I work for the Laurel Leader Call. I done this for them, and you have a resume builder because you work for the Laurel Leader Call is one of the most respected newspapers in the Mississippi Press Association. We've won tons of awards. They're all the way down the wall. And you say, hey, I may have added to that. We just had Brock Holyfield who won an award for us. And he's a South Jones student that's super talented. Probably more talented than I am. And he won an award for us. That's something you could put on a resume. I just wish that these kids and adults who are trying to get into it would do it right. Man, come into the Leader Call or come into your local newspaper, your local media outlet, and say, hey, here's what I've got. Here's a little portfolio of what I've done. And here's what I can do. Chances are you'll probably get paid for it. Your stuff will go on Facebook and everywhere else, so people will see it. More people will see it. And you get to do what you love. And it's legit. And you're building relationships. Because whenever someone comes up to you and they say, hey, who are you? You can say, hey, I'm Kevin Lindsay. I work for the Laurel Leader Call. I'm here covering the game tonight. Great. And you can build relationships off of that. I don't think just making a Facebook page and going to Best Buy and buying a camera and looking up a TikTok edit, that's only part of something. That's only part of something. You need the rest of it. You need the resume builder. You need to form those relationships and all of that. Not just with high school kids. You need to form it with staff and administration and all of these things, because what's going to happen is it's going to start going from MRA doing this to Northeast Jones doing this, and to South Jones doing this, and to Stringer doing this, and to whoever else doing this, because the sidelines are going to get filled by 20 people who they have no clue who it is. And I fully am on board with schools saying this, because I have a daughter who is at school, and I don't want just some random person showing up, because we say stuff can't happen here in little small town Mississippi, but bad stuff can happen. And I'm not saying that somebody's going to come in and do anything, but schools need to know who's on the sidelines and what they're doing. That's all I'm going to say. I've let this go on to almost 45 minutes. I'll probably edit this down a little bit, at least with the small form content. For TikTok and stuff, I'll probably edit it down a little bit. If you're listening to this or you're watching this and you're one of those teenagers and one of those creators and trying to get your foot in the door, man, keep doing it. But come by the office and say, hey, I want to do it. I want to help out, because we need people. We need people to come help. I am, in a few months, I'll be the only photographer, photojournalist on staff. I need help. And our boss, our publisher, is willing to pay. So, shout out if you were listening to this and you're thinking, man, he's just being an old guy and gatekeeping. I'm not. I see the talent that's out there, and I want you to come in and form relationships. And whenever I'm old and 60 years old and out there with my DSLR, you can be kicking it like I was in my 20s and 30s. I want to see it. I want to see media and photojournalism continue to grow. And I think there's so much talent out there that is going to keep pushing us all to be better. So, yeah, definitely do that. Just do it the right way. Do it the right way. Anyway, this has been episode 001 of Beyond the Presser. And I hope you guys enjoyed it. And we will see you later.